Hello everyone, Jonathan Railchandur here, and today we're going to talk about the various types of weapons present in Starpoint Gemini 2. You've got two primary weapon types, your light and your heavy, and amongst the light there are three different types: plasma cannon, beam, and railgun. Among the heavies you have shockwaves, missiles, and fusion torpedoes. Now I've got the super special weapons equipped right now, so these are actually really poor for showing off what they can do, because when it comes to heavy weapons, I'm going to just say right now it's a preference thing. Shockwaves have a slightly larger blast radius, but in the end, the normal weapons that you can buy from stations, they all do about the same damage and have the same reload time. If I had to make a recommendation, I would say just always go with shockwaves. Unless you get your hands on the Athena through blueprints, in which case, look at it. Marvel at it. But the light weapons, though, they actually have some major differences. The ones that you don't actually even see listed in game, and I will explain those now. First and foremost is the beam weapon. These are by far the weakest weapon in the game, but they offset this by having pinpoint accuracy. Where you aim, they hit instantly. They are beams of light. They're lasers, phasers, or whatever else you want to call them. So if you're using a lock-on camera mode, you just keep you just shoot at the center of the screen and you're always going to hit. You cannot miss with a beam weapon. It is impossible unless you're actually not pointing at the ship. Next, you've got, that's right, the other thing about beam weapons is they do the most damage to shields. They are shield shredders. I mean, if you were to compare beam weapons shield damage to a railgun shield damage, you would see the difference. Now, railguns are the second best of the light weapons. They've got the longest range and deal pretty good damage. Their major downfall, however, is that they have low shield damage. Essentially, you're going to have trouble eating through shields if all you're doing is using railguns. But other than that, they're a pretty nice choice. They're also, however, quite inaccurate over their longer ranges. Closer, if you get an enemy to mid-range, you're more likely to hit them than if you have them at the full, 720 range as displayed there. Finally, you've got the plasma cannons. These are the beasts. They've got good shield damage, good hull damage, and really, they are the best weapon in the game if you don't mind. They sometimes have a slow rate of fire, a high energy cost, and can be inaccurate at times. So those are the major differences between all the weapon types. I would try to explain more about the heavy weapons, but as I said, I went through the files. All I could find was that shockwaves have a wider blast radius than their cousins in general. Now, to go along with this little discussion, we'll also talk a bit about enhancements. Now, heavy and light weapons each come with their own set of enhancements, sharing names but having different effects. For example, Artemis, often seen as one of the better light weapon enhancements, will increase the damage that your light weapons do, the recharge of the battery that light weapon is on, and increases shield damage if you get an Artemis 3. see other effects such as increased accuracy, increased rate of fire, shield damage, critical hit chances, critical hit damage. But the two most interesting ones are additional radiation damage and additional EMP damage. Now, radiation damage is damage done only to the hull. Now, unlike the residual damage, radiation damage from the gunner tree, the additional radiation damage by the enhancement is only applied to the hull directly after you've gotten through your enemy shields. And what this formula is here is you take the weapon's damage, so for me it's 575, well actually 500, multiply that by 0.2, that gives us 100, so that means we'd be doing 600 hull damage, because you would add the 100 to the 500. So to a shield, I would only do the 500 base damage, but to the hull, I'd get a 20% boost to my damage. Now, EMP damage works much the same way, only against shields. So, again, we have 500 damage there. We go 500 times 0.3. It would be 650 damage to the shield baseline, not accounting for shield shred factor and things of that nature. So that's how these particular enhancements work. I know those two have caused quite a bit of confusion in the community, some with me as well, so I figured I would get to the bottom of it, finally have, and there is your answer. Now, I've specifically picked the gunner class for this. Oh, not as much as I thought. Hang on, let me load a different save up real quick. Sorry. Was it weapon tutorial? What I modified? I think so. I modified one of my save files so that I would be a gunner for this here tutorial. My apologies again for the delay. I could do more takes, but for those of you that hate watching video tutorials or just don't like longer video tutorials, I've got good news. First, I'm going to start doing text tutorials in addition to these video tutorials. I'm going to start condensing some of these longer tutorials into quickie tutorials, where I take one subject and try and explain it in 1 to 5 minutes. Hopefully the 1 minute mark.
New missions are available.
Okay, let's check. Am I the right class? Yes, no. How did this happen? I modified the save file and I can't remember which one it was. Was it actually rep test? Huh. Perhaps it was. Don't worry, we'll find this. But anyways, back to what I was saying. We're going to have 2 new tutorial formats. The text tutorials I will put on the Steam forums, since that's where most of the community goes. I know there are official forums. I was quite active there for a long time, but most of the community is active on the Steam forums, so I'm going to do most of my tutorial work there.
I suggest checking the star chart, Captain. New missions are available.
Here we go. Okay. Here's the other part about the weapons. There is a gunner class. Each of the skills focuses on one of the weapon types: plasma, beams, railguns, or just heavy weapons in general. Now, plasma, you've got 5 skills: charge up, ricochet, rate of fire, critical hit, and residual damage. Point of note, as of the making of this tutorial, ricochet is not currently implemented. There are some issues with getting it implemented, but they are working on it, so fear not. Anyways, Plasma tree is pretty straightforward. Increase the damage of your plasma weapon, increase its rate of fire, increase your chance for critical hits, or one of my favorites, residual damage. Now, unlike the enhancement, when you hit an enemy, even if they have a shield up, this will still do damage to their hull, and it's damage over time. Now, I'm not entirely sure how much the damage is based on, but using the Loki heavy, or the Loki light weapon, one shot will take down a frigate with this at 97% if you put all your points into it. So it's a pretty good chunk of residual damage over, I think, 6 seconds, maybe even more. Ricochet, when it's implemented, as you can see, will just bounce off the targets. And quite frankly, Ricochet plus residual damage with charge up is a very frightening combination. Now, beam manipulation, this is actually the unique tree, as it has the only skill that will benefit all the trees, except for heavy weapons, because it has battery energy, which is not linked to the weapon. Now, we've also got focus, sniper, disabling hits, and razor. Now, power saver increases the amount of battery energy you have while the skill is up. This means you can fire your weapons longer. Definitely a benefit. Focus just increases the damage you do to shields. Since beams already shred shields pretty good, this will make them shred them even faster. Sniper gives your beam weapons some longer range. As they have the lowest range in the game, that's actually pretty helpful. Disabling hit, as you can see, drains your target's battery energy, making it harder for them to fire back at you. And razor, this one's pretty dirty. It's basically, when it hits, it has a chance to deal damage to all shields equal to the damage that your weapon normally does. So if you're using a powerful beam weapon and you have razor ranked up, you can easily take down all the shields on your enemy's ship. Combine focus with razor and probably disabling hits, you've got yourself a pretty powerful combo. Though you might want to put power saver in there with focus and razor, and you'll find enemy ships just melting before your eyes. Now, railgunner is another interesting one. You've got burst, puncture, lucky shot, tracer round, and phased shell. Now, burst gives you a chance to fire more shells per shot. This has a negative effect to its positive in that it actually costs more battery energy every time it procs. Basically, every time you do shoot more shells, it will use more energy. Puncture, more hull damage. So once you get through the shield, you will just melt the hull. Lucky shot, destroy target's ammo and cause even more damage. Again, another good one to have. Tracer round makes it easier to hit your enemy because it lowers their evasion and is the added bonus of preventing them from cloaking. Now, as I've said before, I have not noticed enemy ships cloaking yet, but trust me, it's coming. But probably the highlight of this tree is phased shell. This negates railgun's weakness of not being able to hurt shields because it just allows the railgun's shots to go through shields. It's a chance to happen, but as we've seen before, percentage chances seem to work in your favor pretty well in this game. My recommendation for this tree would probably be puncture, lucky shot, and phase shell, and some kind of combination to really rain down the pain on your enemy. Now, heavy hitter is an interesting one. For the longest time, no one wanted to touch this tree because heavy weapons had a long reload time, and by the time the reloads were up, the skill was already done. That's no longer the case. You can get many shots off, and you can have a lot of fun with this tree, starting with the fact it's got fast reload, it's got rearm, envelop, nano charge, and barrage. Now, fast reload is just what it says it is. You're going to reload your weapons pretty quickly. So that's no longer a problem. Once you pop the skill, make sure you have some points into that, you'll be fine. Rearm means you won't waste as much ammo because there's a chance you'll get some of it back when you fire. Envelop is a chance to hit all the target's shields with just one shot. Pretty nice. Nano Barrage will heal you for some of the damage you've done. And Barrage is a chance to fire more shots with just one shot. Now, I'll be honest, I have not messed with this tree much, if at all, but if I had to make a recommendation just from what I'm seeing here, I would go fast reload, envelop, and barrage for where I put my points into. Fast reload will allow you to get many shots off, envelop a chance to deal lots of damage to your enemy's shields, and barrage just a chance to barrage them with shots. Now, you can replace envelop with rearm because sometimes you just want to have more more ammo, and that's a pretty nice thing to have, I'll admit. So, those would be my two recommendations. The only reason I don't recommend Nano Recharge is that you only really need it if you're taking damage and you've got nano repair bots to help you along in that area. Probably wondering why I didn't say take Tracer Round or Lucky Shot in this, or did I say, or no wait, Burst or Tracer Round in Railgunner. Burst, like I said, has the downside to it, and Tracer Round usage is kind of limited right now. And beam manipulation, disabling hit is nice and sniper is nice, but really they're not that powerful. And again, in plasma booster, ricochet is not active yet, and critical hits, I find just buffing up your base damage and then hitting them with lots of residual damage at a high rate of fire is going to be a much more beneficial way to go as a gunner. But as always, feel free to experiment on those. In the perks, there's also things to increase the damage these weapons do by up to 24%, it looks like. Yep. So, pick a weapon, and if you're a gunner, get ready to hurt your enemies bad, as long as you pick the right skills. That's really about all I've got for weapons, weapon enhancements, and the gunner tree, which kind of got thrown in as a bonus here as I got carried away. As always, if you got questions, comments, leave them in the comments below, or you can leave them on the Steam forum thread. And with this, I bid you guys adieu.